everyone, Nyonstar here, and I made a couple videos in the first year of my channel talking about how I got each and every one of my pets. This is gonna be mostly a compilation of those videos, but there are some new segments, since some information is outdated. I'll timestamp any new content. I was gonna make a unique video, but I've been busy with projects and dealing with some serious medical issues, so this is the best I can do for now. Enjoy your compilation! Hello everyone, Nyonstar here, and I love having pets. Cats, dogs, bunnies, maybe some reptiles in the future. Now I've had pets my whole life, and that brings me plenty of content, stories to draw for all of you. Most of these pets have passed away, so fair warning, it might get a bit disturbing. The first pet I have for you is Tasha, a pretty calico cat. I wasn't alive when my parents had Tasha, so this part will be short and all of it was told to me secondhand. My dad was looking for a cat when he saw an ad in a free newspaper. The ad said they had a litter of kittens, so my dad was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go over to look." When he got there, the guy said, "We only have one kitten left." When my dad saw her, he just fell in love. Let's fast forward some years. My late mother always kicked our cats out at night, and with Tasha, she always came back in the morning. One day, she didn't come back in the morning. They went searching, but unfortunately, they never found her. My parents' theory was that someone else took her in since she was so pretty. The next pet we had was Mina. My dad had a friend named Bill. Now, Bill had a cat, and eventually she had kittens. My parents absolutely adored them. One day, the runt of the litter, a cute black kitten, climbed up and slept in the baby stroller. This was the last straw, and my parents took her in. She was initially named Jasmine, Jazz for short, but Mina was an absolute hellraiser. Eventually, the name morphed into Jasmina, and that eventually turned into Mina, which stuck. One of the mean things she'd do is harass Tasha. Even though Tasha was much bigger, Mina was relentless. Tasha would jump onto a tall, rotating bar stool and Mina would just circle like a predator. Despite this, Mina did have a soft spot. She had a particularly soft spot for us kids. One thing Mina loved to do was climb into a hole in the couch we had. When moving, my parents had put a bunch of things into storage, including the couch. Though it was strange, they couldn't find Mina. And when they moved the couch out came Mina from the hole. This freaked my parents out since it had been in storage for a while. Mina wasn't doing too hot, so my dad was going to take her to the vet in the morning. Unfortunately, it was pointless. She was gone by then. Another short one we have is Buddy the Turtle. I don't remember him, but for a brief period of time we had a turtle. My parents found him, and we kept him while looking for its owner. Apparently he stunk a lot. Eventually, though, we found his owner and they took him back. Even though I don't remember him, I still named my Squirtles after him. Let's move on to the next one. Our next pet is a Maltese puppy named Precious. My older sister got a puppy for her 8th birthday, at least according to my dad. My sister is 7 years older than me, so I don't remember much. I used to give her hot dog pieces. Eventually, though, after 3 years, she experienced a massive heart attack that she didn't survive. My dad put her corpse in a garbage bag and into the tub until he could bury her. We lived in an apartment, so he had to wait. I couldn't bathe and it felt surreal to see that bag whenever I used the bathroom. Now we're on to the first boy. A Siamese cat named Sam. There was a pet store right behind an apartment that we were living in. One day my mom wanted to just look around. Now something you should know about my mother is she had a habit of impulse buying animals. So when she saw a cute Siamese cat, she immediately hounded my dad to get him. Unfortunately, Sam was sick, so it took us a while for us to actually take Sam home. And once he was home, my parents quickly found out that Sam wasn't housebroken. This resulted in Sam becoming an outdoor cat. He would also get into fights with our other cats, so Sam stayed outside for the most part. When he would stay inside, he would bark like a dog all night. We had a neighbor next door who helped take care of him. So when we moved and could only take 2 pets with us, Sam stayed with her instead. Despite having the lady's number, it ended up getting lost and we never saw Sam again. My dad made an effort to find him, but to no avail. It was sad that we had to leave him behind, but when we moved I found a bracelet that said something along the lines of, "I love you, Sam." At the time I thought it was just a crazy coincidence, but it probably isn't. Though no one in my family that I asked afterwards knew where it came from. And now it's time for our first update. My sister had some points to clarify after I had finished the video, and while I did pin a comment, I thought I'd actually add those points this time. 1. Tasha was actually a tortoiseshell and mostly brown. 2. Sam was her cat and lived inside for a year before he was kicked out. And 3. Sam was housebroken until we got Casper. And then he started peeing on our mom's clothes out of spite. Thanks, Dee. Now we're moving on to a cat that I still have with me. A beautiful white and orange cat named Casper. When I was around 4 years old, my family knew this calico cat that would hang around the neighborhood. Eventually, that cat had a litter of kittens. Being alley cats, the kittens ended up being caught by a pet catcher. One morning, my parents heard a loud, high-pitched crying. When they went out to investigate, they found a tiny white kitten who was caught. They ended up taking him in, and he was housebroken right away. He was the runt, and so small he could fit into your hand and would hide out in our theater cups. Now he's so big and fluffy he can't even fit in your lap. When he was young, he was quite the delinquent. He would fight with Sam and with us. But when he was neutered, he became a big sweetheart. He's so nice that he practically raised my younger brother and me. And despite his size, he's a lap kitty through and through. I'm not sure if he will come with me when I move out, but for now he's my bestest friend. And I've known him for most of my life and all of his. He loves to lick plastic and eat our plastic Christmas trees. He also once ate a toy strawberry I had. The only reason we knew he ate it is because he threw it up later. He may not be the brightest, but he sure is the prettiest. Now let's move on to another dog who is still living with us. After Precious passed, we wanted another Maltese dog. My parents went out one day promising to come back with a Maltese puppy. When they came back, they told us that they didn't come back with a Maltese. They came back with a Maltese and Yorkshire Terrier mixed puppy. We initially thought about naming him Benji since we loved those movies, but then my parents saw a news story about a dog being murdered. His name was Toby, and so in memory we named our new puppy Toby. Now Toby is definitely an OD type, nothing going on in there. But despite this, he has run for it a couple times. When we moved to Texas last February, he ran away like 15 minutes after we got to my dad's girlfriend's house. A woman took him in and renamed him Rusty. She was very mad when we wanted him back and dumped him at a pound. Luckily my dad could pick him up from there. He's about a year younger than Casper, so he's pretty old now. Now, I have some unfortunate news about Toby. On July 30th, 2025, he passed away. He was old, so we weren't too surprised. Still, my dad had just left for work, so I had to take care of the body until he could get buried. It was extremely traumatizing. So as of now, Casper is the only pet I have. We've only ever had 2 fish. Their names were Ponyo and Moonbeam. My sister came home one day from school with 2 bags of fish in each hand. Ponyo was a standard goldfish and Moonbeam was a silvery kind of fish. We put them in some Tupperware and went out that night for fish food, but when we got back, Moonbeam was dead. Ponyo lived a bit longer though. She lived in a jar by the kitchen sink. She lasted about 3 months. I thought this was long for a fish, but they're actually supposed to live for 10 to 15 years, so I guess it's pretty long for a fish with no proper equipment. Still, now that I know more about marine life and ichthyology, I do feel really bad. So I actually have to split this video into 2 parts. I wrote this whole script and it's twice as long as a normal script. So stay tuned for part 2 where you can see more cats, a dog, and meet the bunnies I've had in the past. If you'd like to be notified when part 2 comes out, hit the subscribe button and the bell. Hit like if you enjoyed this and watch part 2, if it's out when you see this. Have a good day everyone and thanks for watching. Bye! Warning, some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello everyone, Neonstar here, and this is part 2 of talking about my pets. Be sure to watch part 1 for some context and come back here. Just like last time, most of these pets have passed and it might get a bit disturbing, so there's your warning. Let's start with one of my favorite pets, Boo, who is a fluffy black cat. We were visiting this adoption pet festival that would show up in Albuquerque once a year. We were looking for an older female cat and we came upon one that was for sale and we took them home. After doing some investigating and a vet visit, we found out that instead of an older female cat, he was instead male and about 6 months old. But we loved him, and after a while we named him Boo. He was a boisterous, hyper ball of fluff who adored everyone, and everyone adored him. Even Casper, who didn't get along well with other cats often, was grooming and cuddling next to him within a week. We had him for some time, and he was full of personality. We think that maybe he was a Chantilly since he resembled them and even chirped. He likely wasn't living in good conditions before we got him. On his first vet visit, he had 3 large ticks in his ears. Poor baby. One day, about 6 years after we got him, we noticed that he wasn't acting right and he seemed very sick. The next day, my dad and sister went out to bring him to the vet. They had to walk and the vet wouldn't even see them. Another person at the vet had offered to drive them to different vets to find one that would see them. By the time they got to a vet that would see him, he was already dead. Apparently he had stopped peeing and his bladder burst. I still vividly remember my dad and sister coming back with an empty cage. He died on June 16th, 2017. Our next one is the last dog on this list. My mom was obsessed with the movie Hachi, and Hachi was an Akita breed dog, so my mom wanted an Akita just like Hachi. Coincidentally, a high-end Akita breeder lived down the street from us, and he had a litter for sale, and their parents were a very high pedigree. After visiting him a couple times, we adopted a female puppy and named her Teddy Ursa for short. And when she was a puppy, my dad brought her to school when picking me up. She was so small, but she quickly grew bigger than us. My mom, however, didn't want to train her, so we had an untrained dog running around who was the size of a bear, so she was left outside most of the time. At night, and when the weather got bad, she would live in the bathroom next to my sister's room. She had a cage, but it was eventually occupied by bunnies. When my sister moved out and into her now ex's house, she took Ursa with her. Her ex eventually bullied her into getting rid of her since they didn't have the space. Even though they also had a big dog that they were considering getting rid of, they made my sister give up our dog. They forced her to live in an uninsulated garage, and one of their dogs kept trying to kill her. So my sister gave Ursa to a shelter, and she was adopted almost right away. My sister still gets upset when she thinks about it. This next one is the last cat on this list. My parents were looking for another cat, and it came down to two options. There was this white cat with a black patch on his chin that looked like a soul patch, and a gray and white older cat that was scheduled to be put down. We chose the old cat, and her name was Serenade, Sarah for short. She was very shy and sick, so she settled down in the bathroom that Ursa would use later on. After getting over her sickness, she ran out into my sister's room one day, and under her bed is where she would stay, and she was officially dubbed my sister's cat. She was about a year older than me. She hated Boo, and only really tolerated Casper. When she moved out, my sister took Sarah and Ursa with her, and when she moved out of her ex's place, she took Sarah and her other cat with her. Sarah was very old by this point and had gone deaf. Last June, on the 14th, my sister found her lying still on her couch. She was 19 years old. I still get teary-eyed thinking of all the years she gained because we decided to adopt her. Let's move on to the bunnies, shall we? Our next pet is Marshmallow, who probably changed my whole life. When I was little, I was obsessed with rabbits. I even thought I was one. So on one Valentine's Day, when my dad took me to Petco after school and bought a rabbit cage and rabbit food, I had my suspicions. When I got home, I was introduced to an albino bunny. My favorite children's book is Marshmallow, so it was easy naming her. Her original name before we got her was Stay Puft, so we decided her full name would be Stay Puft Marshmallow Girl, but we only called her Marshmallow. She got to hang out in the living room once, where she chased Boo around. About a month after we got her, on Good Friday after a day out, we found her in an odd position. My dad and I went to tell my sister about it when my mom rushed in and sent us to our rooms. I started to cry because I knew something was probably wrong with Marshmallow. My parents gathered the both of us to break the news that she had died. We figured that she had likely choked. The rabbit food we had given her had nuts in it, which she likely couldn't chew. Thanks a lot, rabbit food brands. She died on March 29th, 2013. This was the first time I really experienced loss, and this is when I learned to internalize everything. Basically, I got to the depression stage of grief, and I never left. Not long after Marshmallow's passing, my mom got a new rabbit. His name was Kichiro. We called him Kichi for short. He was a black and white spotted bunny, and he was very polite. He had a hide made from a cardboard box and took up residence in Ursa's old cage. Not with her in it, though. He never wanted to leave his cage, and when we took him out, he never wanted to go back in. One time I fell asleep with him on my chest, and I woke up to my dad being angry at me. After I fell asleep, he just sat by his cage until my dad let him back in. Before I go on, I'd actually like to move on to the next bunny, since their stories are interlocked. We got a black rabbit after getting Kichi. We named her Mimsy, after my favorite movie at the time. We got her as a friend for Kichi since he was neutered, though their first meeting didn't go well since Mimsy ended up bleeding. So we put a divider in the middle of the dog cage so they would get used to each other. This ended up working, especially since Mimsy once jumped over the divider to be with Kichi. Eventually the divider went down and the bunnies became very close. Mimsy would bite me in the back whenever I was paying attention to him, and since she wasn't spayed, she would pee on you if you took her out for too long. We got them a ferret cage eventually. After being kicked out of our house, we didn't really have the room for them. So my parents gave Kichi and Mimsy away to the Rabbit House Society, and we haven't seen them since. The last pet I have for you is another bunny, and this one gets really disturbing. A long time after Mimsy, my mom impulse bought another rabbit. His name was Mochi, since he was a fluffy white ball. Since Mimsy wasn't spayed and Mochi wasn't neutered, they weren't allowed to be near each other. This didn't stop Mochi though, since he would hump both Kichi and Casper, who did not appreciate it. He would also pee on you if left out for too long. When my parents got rid of Kichi and Mimsy, my dad begged my mother to keep Mochi. She relented and Mochi stayed. However, given how things turned out, it would have been better to get rid of him too. My dad would often forget to clean his cage, and this resulted in poor Mochi getting covered in his own feces. My dad gave him a bath a couple times, but this really didn't do anything, and there was nothing I could do to clean him. One day he asked me to let Mochi out to play while he was at work. I did, and Mochi had been crystallized in his own feces. I laid him down on the hotel bed, and Mochi started to scream. Have you ever heard a rabbit scream? It's one of the most horrifying sounds I've ever heard. I started to cry and panic, and my sister who was visiting was in shock. He died quickly after. He died on June 11th, 2018. And there we have it. Sorry that it had to end so grim, but I didn't want to sugarcoat anything. Now, back to YouTuber business. Thanks for watching part 2, and make sure to watch part 1 if you still haven't watched it. If you liked the video, then hit that like, and if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Thank you all for watching this, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Bye! Hello everyone, Yonstar here, and while I've already talked about the pets I've owned, I haven't talked about the pets I didn't own. That's right, today we're talking about our foster pets. My late mother was obsessed with pets. She had periods of time where she would obsess over a certain animal and hound my dad into getting it. This is how we got a lot of our pets. Usually she would get the pet, give it love for like a week, then completely neglect it. Something she didn't limit to just animals. Which makes me happy that my dad was steadfast against most of her longing. My dad also likes pets, but mostly just cats and bunnies. Anyway, when I was a kid, my mom and dad volunteered at an animal shelter that was close by. They went over about once a week to take care of various cats and dogs for half the day. After doing this for a while, they thought about fostering some kittens. Basically, we would help take care of sick kittens until they were better and able to be adopted into a permanent home. We started off with 2 brother kittens. They were Siamese kittens with eye infections, so we took them in. Their original names were Logo and Icon, which we thought were stupid. One of the brothers was more energetic and troublemaking, so we named him Rascal. He once broke a dolphin clock when he was allowed free roaming. We had a harder time naming his brother, since we wanted the names to be close enough to each other. The other kitten was a sweet and cuddly boy, so we named him Romeo. And thus we had Rascal and Romeo, who lived in Marshmallow's old cage. Also, as an aside, I'm not choking them in these photos in the slightest, it just looks like it and it cracks me up every time. And when their infections healed, they roamed around with Casper and Boo, who seemed to get along with them fine. We had to give them up eventually. My mom begged to keep them, but my dad refused. Since they would scream and be generally distressed when separated, we recommended them to be adopted together. It was hard letting Rascal and Romeo go, but it opened up a slot in our home for our next foster cat, Envy. We were given another kitten, this time a black kitten with green eyes. She didn't have a name before, and my sister, dad, and I were reading Full Metal Alchemist at the time. I kinda had a thing for one of the antagonists named Envy, so when my sister saw our new kitten's bright green eyes, she suggested we name her after him. And so we did. I don't remember much from her, but she was a delight to be around. My sister even contemplated just keeping her. Except Envy had a problem. She loved to piss on my sister's things. And none of our cats up to this point had ever really had this problem. So once she was ready, Envy was taken back to the shelter. According to my sister, she was really mad that we took her back, and she refused to even look at them. She's the only one that we're not sure if she was adopted out or not.
she was moved to a different shelter out of state. I'm guessing we didn't have her for long, since I can't find any pictures of her. Our next kitten was named Matthew. We also called him Matty or Matt, and considering the state of his fur, it was very fitting. He was another black cat, but this time with yellow eyes. He looked like a soot sprite. One of the only things I remember about him was his 6-toed feet. He is, to this day, the only cat I've seen with 6 toes, and he used all his toes for little crimes. He used to scratch my sister up good, but he's the one she wanted to keep the most. He was precious, but eventually he was healthy and ready to be adopted out. This hurt a lot, but I hope he found a good home. The last pet we fostered wasn't a kitten. It was a dog named Bella, a fluffy Maltese dog with a fractured front leg. She was how I learned the difference between breaking a bone and fracturing it. If you've seen my first pet video, you know my parents love Maltese dogs, so Bella was very loved. I walked her in the front yard, very conscious of her leg. Bella also had a problem with pissing everywhere, so when her leg had healed, we wanted to adopt her out. We went to a pet festival, probably the same one we got Boo from, and showed her off. A group had really taken to her and walked off with her. Bella came running back up to us towards the end of the festival. While petting her for the last time, I mentioned to these people that Bella had a potty problem. My parents quickly said that she had stopped having these problems and dragged me away. Apparently they had told us not to bring up her issues, but I didn't hear them. I was screamed at constantly for the next week for that one. And that's all I have for you today. I know it's a shorter video than usual, but I didn't really have a ton of memories for this video. Luckily my sister filled in some gaps for me. I know how much you love our pets, so there you go. If you liked this video, like and subscribe. Have a good day everyone! Bye!